From the House of Songo, this is GayTopix, the only gay source for hot topics and gay news. Good afternoon. Today is Monday, September 7th, 2020. To quote the incomparable Barbara Walters, this is 2020. Happy Labor Day. I'm your host, PapiSongo, the only host to bring you the latest gay and lesbian headlines and breaking news. Welcome to Season 2 of GayTopix. Boy, I've learned a lot in the last season, and I hope to grow even further with you this new season. I'm very elated and excited that my season is started, and I hope you guys like what you see. And please comment and share and follow GayTopix anywhere on your social media platforms. Boy, what a year it's been. To quote the incomparable Barbara Walters, this is 2020. No, I can't say that. True. From the House of Songo, this is GayTopix, the only gay source for hot topics and gay news. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. To quote the incomparable Barbara Walters, this is 2020. I'm your host, PapiSongo, the only host to bring you the latest gay and lesbian headlines and breaking news. Welcome to Season 2 of GayTopix. Wow, I'm so excited that my season is picked up and I'm able to deliver you accurate and reliable information regarding the LGBTQ community and the latest headlines in the LGBTQ community. I'm your host, PapiSongo, the only host to bring you the latest gay and lesbian headlines and breaking news. Boy, Barbara Walters was right in saying, and being dramatic with the 2020, because damn, this has been a dramatic year. And it's not over yet. We still have 4 months left of the year, and God willing, we'll survive those 4 months. From protests to racial divide to who calling us veterans losers and suckers, to Niecy Nash leaving men altogether and marrying a woman, to Mariah Carey admitting that Ellen DeGeneres was a troll and made her feel uncomfortable in her new memoir soon to be released. Seems like everybody got a memoir coming out. My memoir alone, amply titled enough, will soon be released on Amazon Audio and paperback this fall. I'm hoping my story can reveal a lot and you guys actually understand the pain and suffering that your consequences of your actions have done to me. In relation to that, I want to say I've been on for a whole season and people still think I'm dead. I'm laughing because it's ridiculous that it has gone this far, but it goes to show you how the internet works. Things circulate and things are transcribed and fabricated, and people are led to believe these misconceptions, but all they do is talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but no one ever comes to me directly. My platform has been available for everyone last season and is available now 24/7. So if you want an interview, I'm coming on your terms. So you can come on my show and co-host with me and answer some of the questions or some of the things that are relatable to you. So anyone who wants to co-host with me, please slide into my DMs and you just might get a slot. It's just in December 18th, 2018, because of a situation that happened to me in relation to men.com and everyone's famed munchkin from Oz, gay porn star Armand Rizzo. I give them blame because if it wasn't for them, I would have never committed suicide or attempted to commit suicide, and they made me feel my lowest. All because of a simple picture. A simple picture. If you do not know what I'm talking about, please go back to my season 1 episode where I go into full detail of what actually happened on December 18th, 2018, and how it made me feel and berated me and belittled me and desecrated and defamed me. Everything that I've come to be, this influence in the gay adult industry and this prominent production company, men.com, completely defamed and destroyed my likeness, reputation, and everything I felt about myself as a gay adult entertainer. I'm a model. I sold my body to represent my brand, and like most models in the gay adult industry, do the same thing. I don't know any porn star in history who does not have sex on a daily basis. Which brings us to my new segment I like to call Conspiracy Tuesday. Seeing that I'm not allowed to go out anymore and everything is remotely and it's just me and a camera, I'm not able to go undercover and do what I need to do for Undercover Tuesday. So this Tuesdays, from going forward, it's going to be Conspiracy Tuesdays, where I go deep and I investigate deep into the story to give you these conspiracy theories that are going out into the public. No way, shape, or form does GayTopix promote these theories, but they're based solely on public opinion and the Court of Public Appeal. So, with that said, let's get started with Conspiracy Tuesday. Now, I was mentioning the gay adult industry for a particular reason. This particular reason, during this pandemic, has really raised some flags, and a lot of people are coming up with these illusions and conspiracy theories that if you take PrEP, you're actually immune to COVID-19. It's this, PrEP is an immune deficiency, a respiratory illness, and it helps respiratory. PrEP is, PrEP is a known cocktail of drugs that prevent your immune system from deteriorating and wasting, and it actually makes it stronger, increasing white blood cells to fight any virus that lingers inside your body, i.e. HIV or AIDS. So people are now believing that if you take PrEP, you are now prone to coronavirus. Coronavirus attacks the immune system similar to what HIV does. So if the HIV combination of drugs can actually prevent you from getting HIV and transmitting HIV, then it works the same for the COVID-19. I am no medical doctor. Please do not take my opinion as fact or fictional. I'm just saying these opinions because they're based on public appeal. Again, they're based on public appeal, and I found it interesting, so I thought I'd talk about it. I actually somewhat believe it because as a porn star, your job is to literally engage in sexual activity with numerous models. Some porn stars have sex upwards to 6 times a day. Being an adult entertainer, you're likely to make more than $10,000 a week doing porn. So that's a business all in itself. People always ask me, why am I so pressed on becoming a porn star? Well, I've tried so many things in my lifetime. If you haven't watched season 1 of GayTopix, I gotten really personal, and I'm gonna continue to get personal. So in season 1, I described a lot about the gay adult industry and what they did to me by blacklisting me from furthering my career as a gay adult entertainer. And to this day, I still don't know what was the reason behind it. But that on December 18th, that interaction with men.com and Amon Rizzo was the last straw for me, and I had to do what I had to do, and feeling at my lowest and having nobody actually come to me to talk to me. I was crying out for help and looking for work so many years. I haven't had sex since 2012 because, like most porn stars, I only had sex when I got paid or when I was actually working. So that, you know, to get the money shot. So I worked endlessly in the gym, 4 or 5 hours a day, getting my body perfect, only to be discredited because of simple things or mindless excuses that these producers and editors and things like that and promoters and talent management all discredited me for, you know? Like, there's one talent agency, I forget the name, but they're very lucky I forget the name. But there's one particular talent agency, let's start there. A talent agent is supposed to promote talent, right? So this one particular talent agency, I saw that they had numerous porn stars on their list of clients. So seeing that I was having trouble finding work on my own, I decided to hit up this talent agency, who actually declined to represent me. I found that quite odd because they claimed that they didn't want to represent me because I already had history as a porn star. But the people on your platform have history of being in porn as well. So it kind of was like, what are you doing? What's going on here? This is just another excuse not to associate with me. So even talent agencies were trying to stay away from me as far as possible. And it was just ringing so many alarms, like, what the hell is going on here? And to this day, I still don't know what the hell is going on because it destroyed my likelihood and my likeness and my character and my brand, and everything about me that I've done for 11 years was now destroyed. People are like, well, okay, so now you're GayTopix and you're a journalist. Why are you still using your name PapiSongo? That's like you telling a doctor they can't be called, you know, be called a doctor after going through so many years of medical training and residencies and things of that nature. PapiSongo is a part of me. I've been PapiSongo for 11 years. I can't just simply say goodbye to something that's been part of me. And in some instances, PapiSongo was taking over my alter ego was literally taking over my entire personality, and PapiSongo was who I was 24/7. Like many other porn stars, their alter ego is who they are 24/7. Because as I just alluded to earlier, they have sex upwards to 6 to 7 times a day. Which brings me to that conclusion of PrEP. If the COVID-19 is so easily transmittable, do you think it's possible that PrEP can actually cure COVID-19? Please comment below. #Conspiracy Tuesdays. Leading more into that, would you as a gay man or a gay woman have sex with someone during this pandemic, knowing that their job is to have sex with numerous people, i.e. having the risk of transmission of COVID-19 very high? Would you have sex with them? So let's just say Raheem Shabazz or Max Connor or Cutler X came up to you and said, I'll give you $1,000 to do a movie. Would you do a movie with that person knowing that COVID-19 is out there? Please comment below. Conspiracy Tuesday. Another topic that I want to talk about is Mariah Carey's memoir. She says in a 2008 interview with Ellen DeGeneres, as we all know, during my hiatus, Ellen DeGeneres has come under fire in regards to her being, for having her staff work in a toxic work environment, and employees of sexual harassment and things of that nature. So all these allegations made Ellen come forward to give an apology to her platform and to her fans and to her employees, and saying that she does not know what happens behind the scenes because she's hired people to do the job that she didn't have to do. But I find that highly arguable, because if you're the manager of a company and a producer or CEO of a company, you must know what's going on. Even if you favor it or not, you have to know what's going on in your company. If you don't know what's going on in your company, then you shouldn't be CEO. Simple as that. You must know every dime, every penny, every person, everything that goes on in a company on a daily basis. If you do not know, then you should not be a CEO. More importantly, if you don't know what's going on, then your assistant or your assistant's assistant, because I remember working for David Barton, he had 4 assistants, and I was one of his 4 assistants. So if your assistants do not tell you what's going on, and HR, even human resources, could tell you what's going on in your company, and you ignore it, that's on you. So you're not doing a good job. Moreover, we all know when people get money, they become like you know who. Oprah is known to have, bitch attacks and become angry. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ellen was the same way. I'm not trying to discredit Ellen, and because I know her history, because she had the Ellen show back in the day in the 90s, and she came out the closet, and it ended her career essentially. Until she came up with this talk show, which is now in its, I believe it's 12th season, 13th season. Yeah, I think it's the 13th season. So, or is it 18? Whatever season it is, she's been on for a while. And the only reason why her show blew up is because Oprah, giving all credit to Oprah, was no longer on TV, and Ellen took her time slot, which was 4 p.m. So I find it hard to believe that Ellen did not know what was going on in her company. Moreover, I want to get into this. Mariah Carey's memoir, in 2008, she says she was forced to, Ellen forced her to drink champagne and made her admit that she was pregnant. This is before her twins. So once Mariah Carey drank from the champagne bottle, Mariah Carey, a few weeks later, Mariah Carey miscarried. Mariah Carey says that she felt uncomfortable, and that's all she'll speak about it, but she was put in an uncomfortable situation where she was forced to admit something that she didn't want to admit. Now, I can agree with that as well. Ellen is only trying to get ratings and trying to stir up the pot. But if a person has something really deeply personal and does not feel like sharing it with the world or sharing it with a person, especially on camera, then you have to respect that. As a journalist, I have to respect that. As a journalist, I understand there are stories that are going to hit some people really hard. And then there are stories that I don't want to report. But as a journalist, that's my job. Regardless if I like this person or not, I'm still doing my job. And I can totally understand where Mariah Carey is coming from. Now, Mariah Carey has a history of mental, insecurities and things of that nature, and feeling down about herself. And I actually know that personally. And I'm going to tell you a story. And it was in the 90s, I'm going to say. In the late 90s. I went to this club called Cheetah. And Cheetah is directly across the street from Puffy P. Diddy's son's restaurant. And that restaurant is Justin's. Justin, his son. So when Justin was an adult, P. Diddy, Puffy, because I only know him as Puffy, Puffy gave him his own restaurant. It's actually still there. But directly across the street from the restaurant was this club called Cheetah. And I remember going there, I was working in Macy's at the time, and I remember going there and after work, and I was with a couple of friends of mine and stuff like that. And like all faggots do, we go straight to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and fixed myself up, painted my face, and did whatever I had to do. And then I came out, and behind the velvet rope in the VIP area, guess who it was? Mariah Carey and Puffy. That's when they were rumored to be dating. So to me, it was no longer a rumor because there was the evidence right there. So I went to say hello, and this big Puerto Rican bodyguard, he looked like Big Pun. If you know who Big Pun is from the 90s, he was a rapper, a Puerto Rican rapper, who hit it big from the Bronx. And so this big Pun guy came up to me and was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I just wanted to say hello." And Mariah heard me. And as Puffy left to get drinks or refills or whatever, he left for a moment. I don't know what he went to do, but I'm saying he went to go get drinks because when he came back, he had drinks. But he left and left Mariah there alone. So as the bodyguard is trying to detain me and keep me away from the velvet rope, Mariah heard me and said, let him through, let him through. So I shook her hand and I sat down, and she said, "It's really nice to sit down and have a conversation with a normal person and not be harassed by the media or paparazzi or anything like that." And I said, "I could totally agree. I don't want a picture. I just, my memory will last longer than any picture, you know." So, and that happened to me actually a lot because I come from the club kid era. So I know a lot of people, and I never actually took pictures of them. So there are a lot of famous celebrities that I've never actually taken pictures with, but they do know me. So, because remember, I was famous at one point, not famous anymore, but I was famous at one point, and I know a lot of people, and I even know RuPaul, you know. I remember meeting him once, but we'll get into that another thing, because I'm still talking about Mariah. So, as I sat down and talked to her, you know, and we conversed back and forth, I really began to see that she was very lonely. And what Tommy Mottola did to her was completely destroyed her mental ability to actually feel accepted and feel wanted, i.e. what Men.com and Armand Rizzo did to me in 2018. Mariah Carey, to my knowledge, has never attempted suicide, but feeling that pressure on you can actually make you want to do that, make you want to commit suicide. So I can totally relate to what Mariah was feeling when she said she felt uncomfortable. And then having a miscarriage on top of that because she drank wine. I highly doubt a sip of champagne could make you miscarry, but the fact that, you know, you're under all this pressure and being forced to come out and admit that you're pregnant, you know, can really cause stress to the womb and to the fetus and you know, cause a miscarriage. I don't know if Mariah is particularly blaming Ellen for her miscarriage, but I wouldn't put it past me because, you know, it is really uncomfortable. I'll leave it at that. It was really uncomfortable for Mariah to do that. But later on, she went on to have her 2 twins with Nick Cannon. So, another thing I want to talk about is Niecy Nash getting married. Niecy Nash got married to a woman. I'm off script here, so I don't have the resources to know the woman's name, but she married a woman. Now, I know plenty of lesbians who, you know, who were dating men, but left men to date another woman. Now, when a straight woman turns gay, that says something about her and what happened to her. Because all of a sudden, you no longer like dick. What happened to you that you no longer want to date the male counterpart, you know? So I actually knew this woman. Her name was Crystal, and she was dating this man, and she caught the man she actually thought she was going to marry because they were together for over 2 years. She caught the man having sex with her daughter. Her daughter was only 12 years old. And that just, can you imagine that? Coming home and seeing your 12-year-old daughter in sex with your fiance? That just blew my mind when she told me the story. And so, because I later found, I saw her on the street and a couple years later, and she says, I want to introduce you to my girlfriend. It's like, whoa, when did you turn gay, you know? So to me, having having a very tumultuous relationship with men only leads you to being gay. Perhaps maybe it was working on the set of claws that Niecy Nash learned how to do the scissor. And she liked scissor, and so she became a lesbian. I don't know, but being a gay, I'm in true testament to tell you and everyone out there in the world that only a man knows how another man wants to feel, and only another woman knows how another woman wants to feel. Because a woman knows the body, and a man knows the body. Straight people may disagree with that all they want, but gay people know that to be true. So, like I said, perhaps it was working on a set of claws that Niecy Nash learned, how to scissor, and she liked it more. So she became a lesbian. But kudos to you, Niecy Nash, and welcome to the community. I actually think it's kind of funny because it reminds me of a story that when I was in high school as well, in the early 90s. I went to Christopher Street, and if you remember in the previous episode of GayTopix, Christopher Street was the runway. And there were judges, and you would do the runway down Christopher Street before the piers are what they are now. So people would do runway up and down Christopher Street, and their judges will be on the side with the scorecards. So it's so funny. But I remember I used to live in this in Queens, and in the borough of Queens, and this town called Far Rockaway. Far Rockaway took you 2 hours to get anywhere. So if I needed to go out, I needed you to tell me 2 hours in advance that I was going out, because it took me 2 hours on a train to get to wherever I needed to go. Back in the day, there was no transfers, so you would have to pay a double fare, and people in Far Rockaway protested about that because it took literally 2 hours for you to get to wherever you needed to go, and then thereby the transfer was wasted, and you had to pay a new fare. So then that's where the 2-hour window came in. But now the unlimited card came in. The unlimited Metro card was made, because it used to be blue. Remember, a true New Yorker knows this. The Metro cards were blue at one point. When they turned yellow, that's when they became unlimited. And when they became unlimited, people were no longer protesting in regard to the travel, distance of getting your free transfer. So I used to live in this town called Far Rockaway, and I remember doing runway on Christopher Street, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Me and my high school friends did not want to travel back on the train that early in the morning. So we got one of those cheap hotels. Of course, I was the one to sleep on the floor. But these two girls, I don't remember who the other girl was, but one of the girls' name was Estelle. And of course, they're females, and I'm a male, so I'm like, you know what? I don't mind sleeping on the floor, as long as I don't have to pay that portion of the bill for the hotel. So my portion will be lower than what your portion is because you have the bed. So it's 4 of us in the room and only one bed. 3 girls on one bed and me on the floor. So all of a sudden, I turn over because it's hard to sleep on the floor. So I turn over in the middle of the night and I hear, and I'm like, what the hell is that noise? Sounds like somebody got their fist in a can of mayonnaise. So I'm like, what's that noise? And it's like somebody walking, like their bunny slippers are wet and it's like they're walking. I'm like, what the hell is that noise? And I peep up on the side of the bed, and they're scissoring. I've never seen anything like that in my life. But to have that noise, that coming nut must have been good. Because it literally was like wet. And I was like, oh my God, like you lesbians don't even have to like get dick to get wet. That's actually interesting. So rate of HIV transmission in lesbian community is much less than it is in the male community, which I actually find to be true, you know. Also, I feel for you lesbians because there are not a lot of clubs here in New York City that cater to the lesbian crowd. If you know a lesbian club, please slide into my DMs and let me promote that club, because more lesbians need to go out. And it's such a shame that there aren't a lot of venues that cater to the lesbian crowd, you know. I myself as a gay man, kind of like a mixed crowd, you know, like Esquilita. Back in the day, there was this club called Esquilita. And, oh, what was her name? Oh, I forget her name. Oh, man. It was this resident drag queen. And she was from Crash. And Yamel knows this, the club promoter Yamel. He knows this, because he's the old school like me. So he knows this. But, Esquilita, Angel something. Angel Sheridan. No. It's Angel something. Well, anyway, she used to be the resident at Esquilita. And Esquilita had a mixed crowd. And on certain days it would be lesbian night. And certain days it would be gay men night or Latino night or black night or whatever it was. But it was always a mixed crowd. And as a gay man, I kind of like that. You know, knowing that we're all gay, but it's still mixed, you know. I can still have a legitimate conversation with a lesbian than I can a man. Whereas if I had a conversation with a man, I would have to go home with the man. But if I had a conversation with the lesbian, I knew I wasn't going home with them, and this was a legit conversation. It wasn't all about, yeah, let me just let him talk so I could get in his drawers, you know? You know how gay men are. More about you know who. Let's get into that, because it really is disgusting. Knowing the pattern, because I'm a New Yorker, and I came here when I was 2 years old from Ponce, Puerto Rico. That's why it kind of hurts my feelings and when I'm degraded against my skin color. I am not white. Let's put that in bold letters. I am not white. So I should not be treated like every white individual. I'm Puerto Rican. Why is my name PapiSongo if I'm a white boy? It's stupid. You see what the internet does? The internet comes with all these fabricated stories and things of that nature and puts you into this category. I made a movie once, I don't remember who it was for, but I made a movie once, but they put white boy surrenders to black cock. So that kind of hurt my feelings, and I tried to get the producer to edit that notation on the video on the website, and he didn't. And to this day, it's still being floated around as white boy, white boy, white boy, white boy. But my name is PapiSongo. How can I be a Papi if I'm white? And that kind of, like I said, in my neighborhood, which is predominantly black because I live in Harlem, it kind of bothers me because I'm put into that category. It just shows how illusional and disrespectful you are as a person by basing your assumptions on my skin color. Skin color in this day and age should not matter. It's all about your personality. And you're making these assumptions by not associating with me or not even talking to me because of my skin color. Because you think white people are trying to take over the neighborhood. Well, if you paid your rent, you would still have an apartment. Plain and simple. And if you couldn't pay your rent, there are plenty of services and agencies that can help you pay your rent. Including this thing, I don't know if it's for all states, but here in New York City, I found out there's just one thing called a one-shot deal, where you go to HRA, Human Resources Administration, and you ask for a one-shot deal. Every New Yorker is entitled to one-shot deal. One-shot deal is they pay everything all in one shot. So you wouldn't be evicted or, thrown out of your house or electricity turned off or anything like that. So they pay it all in one shot. Granted, you have to pay it back either 5% or 10% or whatever it is that they charge you. You know, you have to pay it back because it's a city, but it's still a good deal where you get your utilities and rent paid and all your expenses paid in a one-shot deal. So some people actually let the thing go up to $8,000, $9,000. Some even go up to 10 grand, you know, and then get the one-shot deal and then pay it. But having it up that high and only paying a median up to 15%, you're likely pay a lot of interest. So I don't think that's such a good idea to let your utilities and rent get as high as that, you know. But here in Manhattan, I find it different than other boroughs because when I lived in the Bronx and when I lived in Queens, if I was delinquent on my rent and my rent went into arrears, I had up to 3 months before I went to court. Here in Manhattan, if you slip one time, you don't pay your rent one time, they send you to court. Because Manhattan is prime real estate and they want you out so they can put the market rate for rent into the you know, the dwelling, and the next tenant to move in will pay the market value of the apartment. So it kind of makes sense, you know what I mean? So as a veteran, it's very disrespectful to me knowing someone who avoided going into the service because his bone spurs, not even flat feet, but his bone spurs, is calling veterans and people who serve losers and suckers. Now, this person, you know who, has a history, a long, just as long as his tie, history of disrespecting people. Remember that time he called Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig? Well, you're just as big as she is, so I don't know why you're calling her a fat pig when you look more like a fat pig than she does. He said some degrading remarks about the late Senator John McCain, who was also a military wartime vet, who was held hostage for over 2 years, you know, and he said something, I can't remember because again, I'm off script. I can't remember what he said, but that's what led to the disagreement between John McCain and you know who. He also wanted the death penalty brought back to New York City after the Central Park Five were acquitted, and he wanted them to be put to death because what they did to this woman. But as we all saw in the documentary, The Five of Us, these people were innocent. It was a mob of people. Even after DNA cleared them, he still kept pressuring to put the death penalty on these individuals. So people are like, oh, he's not racist, he's not racist, he's not racist. You're calling Mexicans murderers and rapists. You're calling lesbians fat pigs. You're calling war veterans losers and suckers because they died in the line of duty. You're calling black and brown individuals, you know, every name in the book. But you try to clear your name by having one black Republican on your side. Now get this, remember this is Conspiracy Tuesday. So these are just conspiracies, but these are things that I notice and things that are based on public appeal and public knowledge. So, in no way GayTopix promotes these ideals, but I'm putting them out there so you can see what everyone else sees, and maybe perhaps it'll change your opinion. I don't know his name because I'm off script here, but remember that black Republican, that only one black Republican who died of coronavirus, and you know who said, oh, I feel bad, and may he rest in peace, and so forth and so on. You know, paying respect to this Republican. But did he go to the funeral? No. Not only did he not speak of Jacob Blake's name or George Floyd's name or John Lewis's name or anybody else who's black and brown, their name who died in vain of the police brutality. You never spoke their name. So to me, it's like, how are you not racist if you know these people literally died? Like Jacob Blake, for instance, because he's fresh now. So let's talk about Jacob Blake. First and foremost, God, he's so sexy. Me as the pig and gay man that I am, well, he's giving his it's a tragedy what happened to him, and thank God Benjamin Crump, lawyer for George Floyd, is now his lawyer, because he will be the civil rights and get his justice that he deserves. Because Jacob, what happened to you is, it should have never happened, and that those officers should be arrested and fired. And the Attorney General needs to step up her game. But I found out that because in New York City, it's illegal for them to do that. But in other states, like, Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, where George Floyd died, that it's okay for, because what I do now is I have this thing called Kodi. Kodi is like Roku and everything else, and it streams channels and things like that. So while I was on a hiatus, I'm watching channels. So as I said, when I was waiting for that call to be called back into the adult industry, because I sent my resume out there numerous production companies and talent agencies and things like that, and I never heard a single word back. That really hurt me, because here I am trying to promote my business and my brand, and you're just completely ignoring me by things you heard, but not allowing me to actually express what it is, the concern that you have that's preventing you from hiring me. Men.com just recently hired Jarek Wentworth, who hatched a $1.5 million scheme against his former employer by outing him for hiring prostitutes. But you hire this individual. What makes you think that this individual who served 5 years is not going to do the same thing to you? Mark McNamara. You just put yourself in a rock and a hard place. But I'm more than sure you're probably going to pay him like $5,000 a scene or whatever, just because he's fresh out of prison and didn't have sex in 5 years because he was in prison for 5 years. That's a lie, because if you gay, you're going to find a way to get your dick sucked. So I don't believe him. As far as me goes, I'm still hitting the rails here to 2012. So anybody who got me beat, I like you to come on my show. Because when I served in the military, I served 9 years, 2 tours, which are 4 years each. So I served 2 tours. I could not have sex while I was on duty, because it was don't ask, don't tell. God, I seen the biggest of dicks while I was while I was in that bubble in the middle of the sand, in the middle of Kabul, Afghanistan. I can only imagine the NBA. Oh my God, I wish I was a reporter for the NBA. But back to Jacob Blake. When I saw him give his speech to his supporters and telling his supporters what happened to him, all I can think about is his big, beautiful pink lips. And then I was like, okay, if he's got big, plump lips like that, his cock must be at least 10 inches with a pink head. God, he was so sexy. That's all I can imagine. I was like, I'm watching him talk with his accent, and I'm like, damn, he is so sexy. Same thing with George Floyd. George Floyd had a body for days, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gorgeous. That's all my mind could think about, is like, what a sad, way to go when you had all this, you were literally in the prime of your life, i.e. like I was. I was in the prime of my life when I'm promoting my brand and my business and platform, and yet no one was hiring me. Like I said, sometimes I would be upwards 5 hours, 6 hours a day in the gym, I lived in the gym. I worked in the gym. I did everything I could to get my body in the shape that it was so it could be camera ready, but yet I was still denied that opportunity for work. While they all callously worked together behind my back. You know how many videos Armand Rizzo has done with everybody? Probably about 3. But yet he never wanted to work with me. Perhaps, I know now my dick is too small, but you're an actor. You're supposed to act. You know how many videos I've done with people that I did not want to film with, but because I'm an actor, I had to act my way through? So, you know, what happened to Jacob Blake is a tragedy. But what I found out as far as streaming goes, I was watching the Chicago news, and in Chicago, it is legal for, like what happened to Breonna Taylor. In those states like that, God let it happen here in New York City, and there would be lawsuits coming out your motherfucking ass. But it's illegal here to do that. But it is legal in those states for police to literally bust down your door and put guns to your children's heads or guns to your head and do all these illegal things because they have the authority to do so. Let an NYPD officer bust down my door and come in my house. I'll put a gun to your head. No, I don't. There are no guns here. So please don't take that the way I just said it, because that's another thing. Everybody trying to be politically correct. You can't say things anymore without being attacked or ridiculed because of what you said. Now, I remember I was talking to a woman who got on a city bike. And she says, I'm surprised I haven't drowned one of my kids yet, because she had 5 kids and she was 28 years old. And she said, I'm surprised I haven't drowned one of my kids yet. But I take my stress out on the pavement or the streets, so that's why I ride the city bikes. She was informing me about city bikes and how city bikes works. I'll get into that a little bit later, but you know, city bikes are from the city group, and they're mode of transportation, bicycles and mode of transportation here in New York City. But I didn't defame her or discredit her. I just knew she was under a severe amount of stress by having 5 kids and being so young. So I can understand her being on that level of stress. You know, and so me saying like I have let a police officer come in my house and I'll put a gun to his head doesn't really necessarily mean I'm going to do it. Or doesn't necessarily mean that I have a gun, because it is illegal to have firearms here in New York City. Which brings me to this conspiracy. Do you remember, before I went on hiatus, when George Floyd was murdered, yes, it was a murder, because this officer and all the other officers, including the EMTs, they all knew that this man was not breathing. And Derek Chauvin refused to pick up his knee off of George Floyd's neck. So Benjamin Crump was right when he said that ambulance was George Floyd's hearse, because George Floyd was dead when he was put into that ambulance. Rest in peace, George, and I hope Phoenicius and the rest of your family gets justice that they deserve. Same thing with Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake, what they did to you was, there are no words, because to shoot you 7 times. Now, I applied to become a police officer, so I know some of the scenarios and things like that, because I was taught that while I was being investigated and while I was being trained to get into the police academy, because you go through training before you actually get into the police academy to do more training. You're also being your background and everything like that is being investigated, so they know who you are, you know, before you get into the police academy. I didn't get into the police academy because I believe now that it was because I was gay, and this was before gay marriage was enacted. Because when I sat down with for my final interview, because I passed the physical and the psychological, everything, I passed all these tests. When I sat down for my final interview with my investigator, and she's going through because when my mom died and I came home from the army, and I found out my mom died, and my father and my grandmother and grandfather, I literally came home to no family. And that was a lot of stress because I was expecting to come home and I was homeless, you know, and it was a lot of stress for me to be under. And how this city and all other cities treat us veterans is kind of like what you-know-who said. We're losers and suckers because we allow the country to disrespect us and use us like guinea pigs and literally just shove pills down our throat. And I was under a lot of stress. So I did what I had to do, and I sought therapy. I no longer seek therapy now because I realize every time you go to a therapist or everything that you say at a doctor's office is recorded and put on your permanent record. So this therapist who has a PhD and so forth and so on, she didn't understand the gay community. Yeah, you may have a PhD in psychology, but if you don't understand something, how can you have an opinion on it? That's why I like Iyanla Vanzant. I like her more, and I like Oprah as well, because they speak from experience. They speak from truth. Oprah was living in Chicago suburbs with roaches crawling all over her. Iyanla Vanzant was homeless, and her husband beat her. You know, so I would take their opinion more than I would value Dr. Phil's opinion, because Dr. Phil is not even a psychologist. He has experience in psychology, but he doesn't have a PhD in psychology or an MD in psychology. He doesn't even have a degree in psychology. He just has experience in psychology. But he's never been in those situations. Yeah, he was poor when he was a kid, so maybe perhaps I'll understand some of the things that he talks about being poor and underprivileged and things like that I respect him on. But more or less, I want to side with Oprah and Iyanla Vanzant because they've been through this situation to know it. So when I sought therapy and I was telling her about being gay and not being able to feel accepted from my peers and my community, because when I was a kid, I lived in the projects and I couldn't come out because if I came out the closet, I would be beat down. And I've gotten into several altercations in junior high school and high school and things like that because I was effeminate, and, you know, the straight boys did not like me. And sometimes I remember walking home through the projects and I got jumped a couple times. You know, I remember even having a girlfriend for show, you know, so I wouldn't get beat up. I'm like, how am I gay? I got a girl, you know. She knew I was gay. She was gay. But anyway, then when I joined the military, it was don't ask, don't tell. Then when I come out the military, I'm in a shelter, you know, so I couldn't even become gay there either. So it was hard for me to come out the closet or accept myself as who I was when my community and society was shunning me for who I am. So when I applied to become a police officer, on my final interview, the investigator kept telling me, do you know you're going to be harassed and harassed and harassed and belittled and berated and accosted because of your sexual orientation? And I firmly believe that too, because you have testosterone-filled, you know, officers like the FDNY and EMTs and things like that. You have all these straight Italian, you know, big, aggressive men who are straight with families at home who are not gay. And for you to come into their family or their unit or their police station or whatever have you, or their group or their platoon, you're going to be ousted and accosted and basically belittled and berated for who you are as a gay man. It took the how you call it, St. Patrick's Day parade. It's been over here for 200-something years. They've been having this parade, but they refuse to allow gay officers and gay firefighters to march in the parade, or anybody gay for that matter to march in the parade. 2 years ago that changed, and they allow gay officers, it was only like 3 of them, but they allow gay officers to march in the parade. So even to this day, if you're gay and you're in the NYPD, you have to keep it on the low, because you would be really defamed and probably lose your job because you are gay. So when my investigator was interviewing me, she went through all these notes of what she found, and she found my history with my therapist. Again, my therapist was fresh out of school. I watched her become from an intern to a doctor. So in that 5-year time that I was seeing her twice a week for 5 years, dealing with the homelessness and severe depression of my family dying, and serving my country and coming home to absolutely nothing, was a lot for me to take and a lot for me to be, handle on my own. I sought the help of therapy. She did not help me in that 5-year time. That's why I stopped seeing her. But then when I saw the notes that she wrote about me, it was clear to me that she did not understand the gay community at all. So again, how can you, as a PhD or a doctor or anything like that, have an opinion on something that you really don't know anything about? So it's a catch-22, because now they're going to believe her over me because she has a doctorate. Although everything she said was not true, people are likely to believe her because she has a PhD. So when my investigator was saying, oh, you're gay and you're going to be harassed and so forth, can you handle it? I'm like, well, I'm from the projects. I can handle anything. That was my answer to that. So she says, are you sure you can handle that? So she actually assumed that I had all this built up anxiety of not wanting it to come out, that it would kind of hurt my chances and I would do things harmful that would jeopardize the NYPD brand. And so therefore I was not recruited into the police academy. It's a shame, because I think to this day I would have made a really, I would have been a really good officer, and I would have changed a lot and to help the communities who are underserved and underprivileged. Because I know now it's not, especially with the Police Benevolence Association recruiting, or not recruiting, endorsing who for president. If that does not speak volumes of the racism that's in the police, I don't know what else does. Police are not there. Some of them are. Let's put it that way. Yeah, some of them are, including the known history of the NYPD being racist and doing, with the stop and frisks and Abner Lima and Sean Bell and all things of that nature. Rest in peace, guys. Abner Lima is not dead, but what they did to him was really horrific. And no man should have been put under that, especially when they're under police custody, knowing that they were supposed to be taken care of, Like the guy who had the spit thing put on him. How can you do that? Like he's like Hannibal Lecter or something. Just because he's spitting on you? Clearly this man is in distress, so putting something on that's going to block his airways is only going to make it worse. Like one of the police officers that were involved in the murder of George Floyd, before he was a police officer, he worked in McDonald's. What the fuck? Now here I am serving 9 years in the military, only to come out to become denied becoming a police officer, which I was an MP in the military. So it's the same training. So to this day, I found it really remarkable that I was not put into the police academy, because I don't know anybody who has not served in the military that does not come out and join some type of law enforcement. It's the same training. So that's where the problem lies. It's not the police. The police are only being told what to do. They're following orders. So defunding the police is not going to help anything or anyone. What you really need to do is retrain the police. Use that defunding that you would take away from the police and retrain them. It's that simple. Retrain them. Because my 9 years in the military, all I saw every single day was black and white. No, I'm not being racist because of that. I saw things through the night vision lenses, and all I could see was white blurry images of people moving back and forth in the night. So yes, every day I saw black and white. So there's no racism about that. So if you want to take it as a racism, go ahead and take it as racism. But I'm literally telling you the truth. For 9 straight years, all I saw was black and white. Because I was in night vision goggles and I had to see movements and you know, things of that nature. Yesterday, I thought this was very strange. I was walking my dog, right, and this woman comes up to me and says, "God bless your dog." And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "I can see your dog is in pain." And she gave me $1. I said, "Thank you," but for the fact that she can see my dog is in pain because of his age, why can't everybody else see that? Why can't everybody donate to my GoFundMe? Why can't anybody understand the grief that I'm going through right now and suffering right now and the pain that I'm enduring right now? Having my dog for 2 decades. Yes, I had him for 2 decades, 20 years. I had him I adopted him when he was 6 weeks old. I taught him how to walk. Everything that my dog is going through is very painful, and no one seems to care. Kind of like when I was complaining about not getting hired or venting my frustrations online. No one seems to listen. So now it's just me and the camera. I don't really care if you listen. I'm speaking my voice and I'm venting and it's helping. So I'm going to continue to do so. I'm going on an hour. You see how long this is going on? This is my season premiere, so I can go on as long as I want. It's my show. So after the woman gave me the $1, she gave me a hug, which I kind of pushed her away because I was like, "No, COVID-19, I don't want you to touch me." That's why, again, I'm asking that question. Do you still have sex during this pandemic? Comment below, #ConspiracyTuesday. She went to hug me and I pushed her back because I didn't want to contact COVID. And so although I am I did have coronavirus back in March, I no longer test positive for it because I'm immune to it. So this vaccine thing is kind of really annoying to me, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But let's talk about what happened to me yesterday. Now I saw police cars and everything like that driving onto a scene. I had the light. So I'm walking across the street and I had the light. Granted, my dog walks slow as fuck, but I was gonna pick him up, but because I had the right of way, pedestrians have the right of way regardless if they have the light or not here in New York City. I had the right of way. So I'm now in the median of the street, and all of you know my dog is off leash. So as you know, my dog is also blind and deaf. He moves based on my movements. So I saw the police cars coming and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stop. So I stopped in the middle of the street and my dog stopped as well. Bill Clinton stopped and I let the police cars go. They told me to walk, but knowing how slow my dog walks, I waved and I'm like, you go ahead. Because your sirens are on. So you must be going to a scene. So when I got up to the top of the hill, I noticed that the police had blocked the traffic and there were like 6 or 7 cars. And they were, oh my God, he was so sexy. They were talking to a man who had his shirt off, was not wearing a mask, and they were surrounding him. There was like maybe 12 officers surrounding him. And he was a little bit irate and agitated and stuff like that. But if you have that many people surrounding you with guns and tasers and, you know, sticks or whatever you want to call it, batons, you know, and handcuffs, you're going to want to be agitated as well. Because it does not take, you don't need that many people for one person. You don't need that many people for one person. Kind of like with Jacob Blake. With Jacob Blake, that officer, if you wanted to stop him because the taser was not working, then you would have shot him in the leg or the arm or something. But shooting him in the back 7 times in front of his children, what the hell are you thinking? Now, I'm really irritated by the fact that these officers have not been arrested yet. Because you don't do that in front of children. You would not want anything like that to happen in front of your children. I don't know the officer's name, but because again, I'm off script, but you wouldn't want to do anything happen like that in front of your children, so why would you do it in front of his children? That kind of reminded me like that other story of that woman who was on Facebook Live when the officers stopped them for the broken taillight and shot her husband while she was on Facebook Live. You know, and she's on Facebook Live and her husband is literally dying in front of her and her kids. Horrific. Well, anyway, I get onto the scene and there are like 12 of them and they're all like in a semicircle surrounding him, and he's up against the wall and he's a little bit agitated and stuff like that. Now, all I can hear was him saying something about, she took my money, she took my money, she took my money. Anybody who, you know, anything involving money, there's always going to be a problem. That's why we're called green-eyed monsters. That's why you know who is the way he is, because of the money that he has, or supposedly has. Because he hasn't filed taxes or released his tax returns yet. I don't know what's taking so long, but they should have been released long ago. But you know who is the way he is because he has the money and the authority to do so. You know, so him calling us veterans losers and suckers doesn't surprise me. Him not going to, or calling Jacob Blake's family or George Floyd's family or even going to John Lewis's funeral doesn't surprise me. You know, or him calling, you know, even if Bill Clinton, speaking of Bill Clinton, my dog, but even if former President Bill Clinton, his swagger, you know, is what made America like him. And still like him to this day, because on John Lewis's funeral, he gave a very nice speech, but, you know, he still had that swagger, even as an old man, because they showed a picture of him sitting there like this. So, yeah, that's my boy, Bill. Anyway, so it's like, he got his dick sucked in the Oval Office. So, given his past history of you-know-who, it wouldn't surprise me if he done illicit things in the Oval Office. Because he's known to have secret relationships with, you know, prostitutes and porn stars like Stormy Daniels and McDougal, you know. It wouldn't surprise me. And for a book to come out, or these, like Michael Cohen has just released a book, you know, and it details a lot of information about what goes on in the Oval Office. So it wouldn't surprise me if he has sex in the Oval Office. Moreover, Melania is from, you know, those countries over there where, you know, like Putin, he pees on everything, so he's into that kinky sex. So it wouldn't surprise me if they have like threesomes and orgies and stuff like that in the Oval Office. You know, so whoever comes in must, you gotta sanitize that Oval Office. So I pull up on a scene and they're surrounding this man, and as I'm watching him, he's clearly under the influence of something. He was slurring in his speech. Like I said, I can understand you being agitated because you have all these officers around you, but it made him even more agitated when they put him in handcuffs. They put him in handcuffs to try to calm him down, but I don't know anybody in their right mind who thinks that putting someone in handcuffs is going to calm them down. Once those cuffs are on, they're not coming off until you're in court. And that's the God's honest truth. So I felt bad once they put him in the handcuffs, but then I thought to myself, because the same thing happened to me at one time. The officers, they came to my house because of my neighbors. said that I was abusing a child, and that I was suspect of child abuse. So they came to investigate child abuse. So I'm like, damn, these freaking neighbors, why are they playing with me like this? Because of the color of my skin. And it really pisses me off because it does not, because of what happened to you and your culture and your society and your community, does not give you the right to do the same to the opposite community. Moreover, I'm also a minority. So I know the struggle. I know the pain. So my neighbors called 911 and said I was abusing a child. The police come and want to come into my apartment and want to see if I had any children because they suspect of child abuse and stuff like that. What I found odd was that there was no ACS worker. ACS is child welfare, whatever you want to call it. There was no social worker. They were just police, and you're not trained in handling children or mental health issues and things like that. This is why they're trying to defund the police now, because they handle, majority of their calls are dealing with mental health issues. Again, if these doctors and psychiatrists and things like that stop pushing pills down your throat to make you like a zombie, you wouldn't be addicted to the medications and you wouldn't have mental illnesses. It's the medications that are doing it. That's why I said I'm no longer going to a therapist or a psychiatrist, because I'm tired. I'm not going to allow you to dictate my life and perceive me as how you want to perceive me. Because if you don't know something, don't speak about it. So they have him, now he's in handcuffs, and I was like, damn, this man is going to get arrested. And I thought to myself, well, at most he's going to get a desk appearance ticket. Because they don't want another black man in jail to have them, under suspicion of being racist. So it's like maybe at most he'll get a desk appearance ticket. But then, like I said, I thought about it because the same thing happened to me. I was getting agitated by these officers, like literally trying to bust my door down without a warrant, trying to get inside my house to see if I was hiding a child. I'm telling them I'm gay, I don't have any kids. I was standing there naked because I had just come out the shower. So I'm standing there naked and they still want to bust inside my house. I'm like, okay, why are you trying to come into my house? So I open the door and I'm like, look, I'm naked. I want to finish my shower, But they still kept trying to bust down my door to try to come inside my house without a warrant. And it was really frustrating me because it was illegal for them to be doing so. But again, I understood the fact because they thought their child was in my apartment. But if I'm telling you there are no children in my apartment, there are no children in my apartment. But it's still their job to do so, so I understood that. But I had to let them in my house. But because I did not let them in my house because they did not have a warrant, that surprised me because, again, I understand that you're doing your job, but if you were doing your job and you did it accurately, you would have had an ACS social worker there on the scene. You would have also had a warrant. Because if you think there's a child here being abused, you would have had a warrant to come and search the premises. But you don't have a warrant. You're just trying to bust into my house. That's not going to happen. So again, like I said, it's not the police that need to be funded. It's the training. So retrain the police on how they're trained and how they're trained to be on scene. Like I said, for you to shoot somebody 7 times in the back, how do you perceive that as a threat? You shoot him in the back. He obviously has his back towards you. So where is the threat here? If they're being perceived as a threat to you, you have 8 other people who are there. So I don't know, 8 other officers that are there. So I don't understand how much immediate threat you're being put in. So that to me makes no sense. You shoot them like they do in Europe. They shoot, perps, on subs, if you watch Criminal Minds, in the arm or the leg, just to detain them. You know what I mean? You don't shoot them multiple times to kill them, because you're literally shooting to kill, and that's a huge problem. So I said to myself, okay, so seeing that I know this scenario as I'm watching it unfold, he has one chance, like I did. One chance. Once the EMTs get on the scene, because they have to call an ambulance because he's obviously under the influence of something. So they have to call an ambulance to get him to a hospital. So when I was getting agitated and stuff like that, I'm like, no, there's no children here. I'm gay. No matter what I did to try to get these police officers to stop harassing me, I was getting more and more angrier because my rights were violated. They threw me against the wall and handcuffed me to control me. And I understood that. I'm like, okay, that's your job. Okay, I'm a little bit irate. But then they should understand why I'm being irate. And you didn't understand that, but I felt, okay, you have these handcuffs on me now, and once I get calmed down, you can release them. No, that wasn't the case. Once the handcuffs are on, that's it. You're arrested. And that's what happened to me. I was arrested. But when I got when I got to the EMTs and I was in the ambulance and I told my story to the EMTs told me what to do. And once I got to the hospital, all these social workers now came and they knew the story, what happened, and there was like maybe 12 of them, and they were all coming up to me at different times as I'm walking through the emergency room, with handcuffed, you know, and naked, mind you, because they did not allow me to get my clothes on, so I was naked, and they're all telling me, you know, the doctor's going to ask you this, the doctor's going to tell you this, and the doctor's just, so you're going to say no, yes, no, yes, no, 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 no. I'm like, okay, fine. So back to this scene, when they had him handcuffs and the EMTs arrived, he still had an opportunity. So once he got to the hospital, I don't know what happened because they got to the hospital, but he still had an opportunity to not get arrested. But even if he were arrested, I saw no reason for him to be, or for what was happening, because again, anything that involves money, people are going to get angry and upset about, especially during this pandemic, because every dime is literally our last dime. So I can understand his agitation of money, someone taking his money or something involving money and things like that. So whatever the circumstances of the police being called onto the scene, he did not appear to be like rob something or break into something. He did not appear to do that because they searched him and found nothing on him. You know, but again, as I said, he kept saying money, 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 money. And maybe somebody took his bank card or something. I don't know, but it involved somebody taking his possession. So he had every right to be angry. He also had every right to be agitated when 12 police officers were surrounding him. You know what I mean? So once he got to the EMTs, he had a chance. So as I continued to walk down the street, I noticed that the police car was following the ambulance. So he was in the ambulance, because when a on-sub or perp is in the ambulance, the arresting officers have to follow the ambulance to the hospital so they can arrest the on-sub or perp in the hospital and put the handcuffs, you know, and handcuff them to the bed. Like Jacob Blake. This man is paralyzed. Where is he going? You have him handcuffed. Handcuffed for days, no less. That is inhumane on so many levels. You wouldn't even put a dog like that. It's just so horrific how these police are trying to fill their goddamn quotas. It's the training, not the police. It's the training. And I can say that to the day I die. It is the training. The training. Don't defund the police. We need police. Another conspiracy theory, speaking of police, is happening now. And there are all these protests going on and things like that. Now, why is it okay for people to protest in large gatherings, but it's a problem for people to gather largely in front of a club or a bar or a restaurant, you know, or even in a park? Now it's a catch-22, you know what I mean? So it's like, how is it okay for you to do one way, but you can't do it the other way? You know, I mean, when I walk my dog sometimes in a park, it really irritates me that I see people walking in the streets without masks on. During this pandemic, people need to realize it's not about you. You're wearing the mask to help others, to help other people, not you. You don't even know if you have it. So you're helping others stay safe. You know what I mean? So it shows the amount of respect and humanity you have toward others, and the selflessness act that you have just by simply putting on a mask. You know, so to me, people who are not wearing masks are very selfish and what do you call, I'm trying to think of the word that you would call them. I can't because I'm off script and I've been going on for over an hour and a half. But yeah, here we are, and I believe what's happening is that when you have these protests, there starts to be gunfire and things like that. I believe you know whose supporters are the ones who are the agitators and the one causing these people who are peacefully protest to cause all this commotion and gun violence. 2 years ago, or even last year, we weren't even talking about guns. Where are all these guns coming from? So you're allowing people to come into New York. This is why I like Mayor Bloomberg, and I will fight for him forever because he did an impeccable job being mayor. Not like Bill de Blasio, but Bill de Blasio is a Democrat, so I gotta favor him. But Bloomberg was an independent, but he kept guns out of the city. And New York City had an all-time low of crime. Bill de Blasio adapted that, so Bill de Blasio is now taking the credit for having the lowest amount of crime, but now it's spiking up. Where are all these guns coming from? So you're allowing, as mayor, you're allowing all these people to come into the city with guns. Now, when you stop the car, because it's now the law in 35 states that if you come from 35 states, you have to be quarantined for 14 days. So they're stopping at, there's numerous checkpoints like on the George Washington Bridge and the Holland Tunnel and Lincoln Tunnels and things of that nature, where police are checkpointing out of state license plates and telling them to detain and give them the information. When you do that, I think you should be able to actually check, you know, do a search of the car and the cavity of the car and the trunk of the car, because I believe that's how they're smuggling the guns in here. Because we don't have any gun shops. There's no way you could buy a gun in New York City unless you go to the projects. But they're getting their guns from out of state. Like the fireworks. When fireworks are illegal here in New York City, but there's a catch-22 there too. Fireworks are legal here in New York City, but yet you let Macy's have fireworks. You let Gay Pride have fireworks. You let Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade have fireworks. You let you-know-who's Republican convention speech have fireworks. So all these fireworks are happening, but yet we can't have them on our own as citizens? That doesn't make any sense, you know, but they're bringing them from out of state. And so if you search a car, as a police officer should do because you're only doing your job, granted, you have no reason to search because they're not under suspect of a crime, but you are under suspect because you have to be quarantined for 14 days. So they have every right to check your information and literally call you the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day to see if you are in quarantine. Because I believe that's how New York City has kept the virus low and under 1% of infection rate. If all of these other states, 35 states that are seeing a rise in cases, if all these other states follow Governor Cuomo's, if all these other states are following Governor Cuomo's structures and procedures in relation to the COVID-19 crisis, because remember, New York City was at the top of the list at one point of the most infection rate and highest death rate in the country. If you only follow Governor Cuomo's rules and Mayor Bill de Blasio's rules, for your state, perhaps maybe your state wouldn't see a rise in cases, you know. So, yeah, if you come from out of state, I think your car should be searched. I really do, because more than likely you're coming here for a reason. Probably to visit your family, probably to smuggle drugs, probably to do whatever. I don't know, but your car should be searched, you know, and it probably would stop, you know, guns from being trafficked into New York City, and gun violence would stop. But again, I think it's the agitators are, you know, who supporters, and he's telling them to go ahead and agitate them to lose focus off the peaceful protest. Now, it does lose focus off it, because now you're thinking about the person who was shot, or the person who was doing the shooting, because I don't see how you taking your car and ramming it into into protesters is proving your point. Or you taking garbage or bricks and rocks and stuff like that and throwing them at police is proving your point. Now, yesterday at the Labor Day parade at Juve, there were 5 people shot. 5 people shot in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Same thing happened at well, there was no one shot at Pride, but the police presence was there, but they weren't doing anything. So Juve had their own per se parade, and this is how they claim is gang violence, but I don't know any gangs in New York City nowadays. You know, MS-13 was eliminated, you know, and that was on Long Island, so we're far from Long Island, so I don't know. More importantly, MS-13 was more Latino than it was Caribbean and West Indian, you know, so I don't even think anything involved MS-13. The Bloods and the Crips were so 1990. Like the Decepticons and you know, do you remember that? And the Transformers. That was so 1980 and so 1990. So I don't know if there's any gang affiliation now. So to even predict that to me is like a conspiracy. You know, so that's the reason why I'm talking about it, is because it's a conspiracy to me, because I don't know if there's any gang involvement. The agitators are, you know, who supporters, you know, and it's really sad to say that you know who is a New Yorker, because he is a New Yorker. And it's really sad to say, because I'm a New Yorker, and all New Yorkers are not representative of what this man does. And his character and his inhumane acts and his disrespectfulness to women and degrading and defaming veterans. And it's just no way professional and ethical for anybody in that position to be, you know, or to be saying. But again, I followed, my segments have all been, you know, connected in some shape, way, or form, because they're all in the top 1% of America. Yes, Ellen is part of the 1%. Because if you have 12 days of Christmas where you're giving thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, probably millions of dollars away every year, then I'm more than certain you have, you know, you're in that top 1%. But that's it for this edition of Conspiracy Theories and my season premiere. Stay tuned tomorrow for Drag Wednesdays. Remember, you're always in the mix with GayTopix. I'm your host, PapiSongo, the only host of bringing the latest gay and lesbian headlines and breaking news. It's good to be back. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.